6.
Okay, I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Directors regular meeting for April 24th at this very irregular time. I would like to have you join me in Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America.
And to the
republic
for which it stands,
under
one nation, under God,
liberty and justice.
indivisible, with liberty and
for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. We have minutes to approve of the March 26th board meeting. I'd like to ask for a motion.
This is Jim on audio. I move that we approve the Board of Directors regular meeting minutes.
Second. Ruth, you're on mute.
Okay. Jim approved it, and then I'm not lost the other.
David seconded.
Tia seconded.
Brandenburg.
There we go. I'm up for both. Okay. All those in favor of the board minutes as written, please identify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Steve is going to abstain
Doug,
since
is
I
it-
wasn't there.
We oppose or not opposed?
Just
Or do we get-
abstain.
Roll call.
It sounds like everyone has agreed except for Steve, who's going to abstain.
That's correct.
Everybody has agreed.
Okay. All right. The work session for the month was canceled because of the virus. Joint advisory committee reports, Lakes held no meetings, Rec did not hold a meeting, and Golf did, and Tom will have a brief update with the golf.
The golf update minutes are on page 9 of your board packet. During that meeting, Keith set the expectations of the conditions of the golf course as a result of the COVID restrictions and the limited staffing that he's allowed to have on the golf course. So that was spoke at length on that. He gave us an update on the bridges. First one being Scottsdale, the repair to that bridge, and the second one being Birksdale, which is the removal of that bridge. While we are making good progress on both of those, we do anticipate there may be delays as a result of COVID-19. And also we discussed the APT Tour event, which is currently scheduled to occur towards the end of June. And right now that is, it sounds like it's going to go forward, at least at this point. But that was the extent of the golf committee meeting. And you can go to page 9 for more details.
Any questions on that? If not, we'll move into the financial report.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Okay, so here is the financials for March. We'll start with the POA first. And you'll see that profit or revenue was short of budget by $68,000. Assessments were up and activity cards were up. Both registrations up by 25 and lot sales continue to be strong at 15,000 over. But golf was down, mainly COVID related, which impacted about half of the month. And also we had a $120,000 hit on the refunds for people that had paid for their annual memberships of some sort. And then when the assessment increase was approved, we had to refund those dollars. Compared to last year, you'll see that revenue is down quite a bit. And the main reason is because last year at this time, we actually in the month of February, we sold the cell tower leases, which brought in a revenue of $1,097,000. From an expense point of view, the team did a very good job reacting to the COVID situation. Maintenance repairs was down was to the better by $144,000, which is a savings. Salaries and wages were better by $120,000. Member election expense was better by $53,000, but that expense will hit in the month of April, so that's a timing issue. Supplies were better by $51,000, and equipment and tools were better by $43,000. All divisions contributing to those savings across the board. So here's the EBITDA. March is actually looking pretty good, but please take note of what I've written at the bottom. April will be a challenging month. We will eat into this lead by a large margin, and we will have expenses that we will need to focus on for the remainder of the year. Right now, the biggest challenge is we don't know when we're going to get back to normal. And so it's hard to anticipate how things are going to go. But right now, things are looking good, but please be aware that we anticipate April will be a challenging month for us. Moving on to the water utility, you'll see that profit was up by $238,000. A lot of that had to do with additional home sites and so forth. Expenses were better than budget by $46,000. 34 of that came from annual software maintenance, but that expense will hit later on in the year, so that is a timing issue. So so 34,000 of that is not a true savings. You'll see the EBITDA is better than budget by $192,000 and better than prior year by $253,000. And that is the extent of my presentation. I will stop sharing screen. Any questions? We have Dwayne online here. So if we have any specific questions that the board may have, they can ask at this time.
I have a couple looking through it. In IT, why were expenses higher in IT in March? Was there something that happened annually?
Well, we had some moving out to the people when they were working remotely. We had some additional expenses there, but we also have some timing issues in IT.
Timing issues as far as maybe?
It'll happen later in the year when the budget actually comes for that item.
Okay. And general income was higher substantially?
In expenses?
No.
Did you say general income was higher in expenses or in revenue?
I'm going to have to go back to it. Let me go back to that. Revenue and legal. Why was revenue and legal so much higher last year?
Doug, maybe you could jump in on the legal.
Yeah, we had a very successful lot sale, judicial lot sale. So income from the lots were higher, and we're selling through our inventory. As soon as we get lots, we sell them out. So that's why it's a little bit higher.
Okay.
Other questions? If not, we'll move ahead to open forum. Last month we had 2 and those were addressed. And this month we have 2.
Ruth, your microphone.
The first one is from Joy Sawyer, Dillow Drive. I recently received a postcard in the mail promoting board candidates. I noticed on the card that they are for championship golf courses, more kayaking, and more canoeing. I am not sure that membership understands that this is part of the 2015 master plan. As a POA board of directors candidate, I have these questions. What is the purpose of having championship courses? Won't converting golf courses to championship courses be costly? Will you share with the membership an estimate of what it would cost per course? And it is also my understanding that once converted, it will cost considerably more to maintain them. What is the estimate cost of maintaining 2 championship golf courses? The same group falsely accused me of wanting to close amenities. Many members have expressed concern about closing amenities, namely golf courses. My understanding that converting 2 courses to championship golf courses would force the closure of any course, other courses. Which courses would you convert and which ones would you close? Regarding additional canoeing and kayaking, would the addition of canoeing and kayaking involve the board designating common property along Sugar Creek? Members are expressing concern to me regarding the continued action of the board to allow our common property to be used at little or no cost to the public while we continue to pay for the maintenance. Response to those, I feel it's important to mention that the POA was not involved in the postcard in any way. As a result, the POA is not responsible for the content of the postcard. For those members that are not avid golfers, a regulation 18-hole golf course is often referred to as a championship golf course. Many golfers use these terms interchangeably. While the POA typically uses the term 18-hole golf course, it would not be incorrect to state that the POA already has 5 championship golf courses. With regards to cost, for the foreseeable future, I do not anticipate that we have any large or expensive capital projects on our golf courses. With regard to kayaking question, since 2016, the number of registered kayaks has increased from 2,500 to 3,600. It appears the community's interest in kayaking has grown tremendously over the years. There are no plans to place a designated common property along Sugar Creek, or Little Sugar, along Little Sugar. The second one is from Sandy Fosdick of Stonehaven Drive. I have received a few emails informing members asking why personal information was released by the POA. I have read the POA statement and that you are not endorsing any particular comment or candidate and that our servers have not been hacked. My question is it the POA's practice to allow POA volunteers and committee members to collect members' personal information such as names, phone numbers, email addresses, and home addresses, store the information on their personal computers, and use information for their own personal agenda? If this is our practice, were the members notified when the information was gathered? Do we have a privacy policy that our policy will only share the member's name to other members? If not, it's probably something the board should address. I would first like to reiterate portions of the announcement that was made by the POA on April 5th. First, neither the POA nor the association endorsed a specific candidate. Second, the POA was not hacked. Regarding the endorsement of candidates by volunteers and committee members, at this time, policy 9.04 states the following: neither the management or board shall endorse any candidate running for board. I am asking the Rules and Regulation Committee to investigate if a change should be made to the policy 9.04 to include volunteers and committee members in the restriction against making endorsements. The Rules and Regulation Committee will need to weigh the concerns of Ms. Fosdick as well as individuals' First Amendment rights. Okay, those are the two we have received, and those are responses. So at this time, we'll move forward.
Ruth, Dave Welchel here. Ruth, may I make a comment?
Okay.
This is David Welchel. Can you hear me?
Who are we talking to?
Yes, David.
This is David Welchel. I want to weigh in on that championship golf course thing. A championship golf course can be any golf course that has held any kind of a championship. I have argued and worried with this thing for 35 years because people would hire us to design a championship golf course, and there is really no such thing. A championship golf course is, we could have had the men's championship at Bella Vista on any one of our golf courses. So like you said, all of our golf courses qualify. It doesn't mean that we're having a PGA Tour event or an APT Tour event or anything like that. It is one of those phrases that came about years ago because of popularity in Golf Digest or Golf Magazine, wanting people to have their golf courses rated higher. It means absolutely nothing. It is one of those phrases that should never have been used. All of our golf courses are championship golf courses. You don't have to change the level of maintenance at any time in order to have a championship golf course, period.
Thank you for clarifying.
Great. Okay, board members, if you turn to page 69 of your board packet, you will see there's a request, an emergency request for the release of funds. So earlier in this year, we had an accident. One of our track hose was being trailered. The individual driving it, unfortunately, in front of them, a car decided to turn left. And as you know, a large tractor with a large trailer with a track hoe on it is going to take a long time to stop. And the driver had the choice of either hitting the back of the car or going into the ditch. The the driver decided to go into the ditch. The trailer tipped over. The backhoe was severely damaged. Luckily, the vehicle towing it did not flip over. There was no injuries at all. There was no traffic citation, but the Traco was completely destroyed. Fortunately, if you can say that when you have an accident, but fortunately, it was one of our oldest Tracos and was going to need to be replaced in the next 1 or 2 years. Our insurance company issued a check, a reimbursement check for $39,624, which is probably a lot more than we would have gotten if we had put it out for auction. We do need to replace it. The replacement cost is $103,509. If I didn't mention this before, the Traco is used exclusively by our water department. Also, backhoes Tracos tend to last 15 to 20 years. So these, while they're expensive, they last a very long time. So we're requesting that the board allow management to take funds from the water department and purchase a new with the net expenditure of $63,885.
Okay, for the sake, go ahead. Who has the question?
I was just going to say, this is Steve, and I do make a motion to approve an emergency capital project for the water department for $63,885 for the purchase of a backhoe, which would replace an older backhoe that was damaged beyond repair in an accident.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion.
Nope.
Tom, you mentioned this was used exclusively in the water department.
Yeah, it's the water department's equipment.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote on the motion that we approve the capital project for the water department, $63,885 to purchase it, and it replaces an older backhoe. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed signify by aye as well. Nay. We can't do both, can we? We'll get on to this before long. Doug, did you pick up any nays?
I did not. Sound like it was unanimous vote.
So it passes. Okay. Okay.
Next up on page 81 of your board packet, you'll see that project number 9008, which was a 2020 capital project for the painting of the backside of Lake Point. The budget amount was $15,000. One of those situations when we got into the project that we realized that the sills and the door frames also needed to be painted. So we ended up spending $17,990. Per policy 8.14, anytime a project exceeds 10% of the original amount, it requires the board to be notified and the board to vote on it. Vote to acknowledge that we were in excess. So we were in excess by $2,990, which we intend to make savings in our operating budget to compensate for that overage. But we are requesting you to approve that at this time.
Okay, I make the motion to approve the additional expenditures on capital project 9008. The capital project was over by $2,990. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second, Ruth. Jerry.
Okay, Jerry. Discussion.
I would amend the motion to include the phrase that the money come out of the POA current operations.
Do we have a second for them?
A second.
Okay. Discussion on that.
Yeah, it's not, but Steve, it's not operations. It was a capital item. As
That's
expressed.
fine.
So it was
Should I
already
amend
a capital budget item.
my amendment is basically that the money has to come out of POA side, whether it's from management saving it out of the capital budget or out of operating expenses is fine. So I would make a motion to amend it that the money come out of the POA side.
Any other discussion? I need to take a vote on the amendment. All those wishing to adopt the amendment as stated, signify by saying yes.
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 All those by no, by opposing, by nay.
Nay.
Doug, can you help me?
It was 8-1 in favor of the amendment.
It passed.
Yes.
So that's the amendment. So now you have to vote on,
Now I have to go back and vote on the original of spending the money, additional expenditure of $17,990, which is $2,990 over budget.
with the additional expenditure coming from savings in
And operations.
operations, but not from the water side.
Okay, from operations, but not water side.
Or probably be better to phrase it, the savings must come from the POA side. That would be a better way of phrasing it.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the additional expenditures of capital projects in 908. The capital project is over the budget by $2,990, and the expense must come from the POA side rather than the water.
Second.
Second on that.
I second.
Steve seconded it.
Okay. Any discussion on that? If not, I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
All those wishing
Yes.
positive
Yes.
on that amendment? On the
Aye.
final vote?
Yes.
Any wishing not to? Any wishing not to? Negative on that. The problem is I can't see everybody at the same time.
Okay.
So I don't know who all is yay and nay. And so
So we had no nays. Is that correct?
That's correct.
that's correct?
Okay. So
All right.
Yes.
Okay, now we have Lake's nomination. Lake's committee interviewed 5 candidates for 3 open spots. They're following a recommendation of the 3 candidates for 3-year terms. They've already re-upped 2 of their candidates, 2 of their members who wanted to go another 3 years. Each of these must be taken individually, and we have been given information regarding each. The first one is the motion to approve the recommendation to the Lakes Joint Advisory Committee of R.L. Watson. Errol Watson
Yep.
for a 3-year term.
Yeah, and in the interest of full disclosure, he is a friend of mine, Steve.
Okay. A second on that.
Second, this is David Welchel.
Discussion.
No.
If not, I'll call for a vote on the recommendation. All those
Yeah.
in favor?
Yes.
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 All those opposed?
motion carries.
Motion carries. The motion is recommended from the Lakes Committee, Advisory Committee for Carol Phillips for a 3-year term. May I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
No.
If no discussion, I'll call for a vote on Carol Phillips for a 3-year term. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Motion carries. I have a motion to approve the recommendation nomination of Lakes Joint Advisory Committee of Ross Gerner for a 3-year term.
Second.
A second. Discussion.
I'd like to comment, full disclosure, that Ross Gerner is my neighbor.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote on the motion for Ross
Gerner.
Gerner for a 3-year term. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, those opposed? Voting regulation, Tom.
On page 71 of your board packet, sorry to have to back you up a little bit there. you'll see the boating regulations. At the request of the board of directors, we reviewed the boating regulations, which had not, they've had a few changes, but there had been no substantive changes to the regulations for about 7 years. And Director Hover commented that there was a number of items that were outdated or the information was incorrect. We went through and did a comprehensive review of the entire regulations. We reviewed Arkansas boating laws, Coast Guard. We also sought advice from the Lakes Committee, from the Lakes and Parks Department, the Rec Department, Member Services, and Marketing. This was then sent back to the board, and some additional changes have been made. And you'll see that Director McKee made quite a number of recommended changes. On your document, if you look on page 73, on the left-hand side, you'll see the proposed version, and then in red is Director McKee's recommended adjustments. And all those management and Parks and Lakes were in agreement on. To the right, Director McKee made some additional recommendations that for one reason or another we did not feel was appropriate, and we've spelled those out so that we can provide detail behind those. So at this time, we're asking for the board to accept a version of some sort to move forward with. It only requires one vote of the board for this to be approved. Policies always take 2 votes. This is a regulation. It only requires 1 vote.
Can I ask for a motion to move this forward?
Isn't this the final version? Or is there more to come?
No,
that's my
this would be
question.
it.
Well, you said a version of some sort.
Implementation.
Well, I'm sorry. What I meant is a board member could say, I like the version that you've presented with the changes, or a board member could say that I don't like any of the recommended changes made by Director McKee. So that's what I meant. Management is recommending that we accept it as it is presented.
Well, yeah, let me make a couple of comments if this is the time to do it. I also want to thank the Rules and Regs Committee, the Management Lake Committee members for all their input that appears to me to be a final result in this brochure we're looking at. I know it's been a long process, but in my opinion, we have all helped the board towards fulfilling its legally binding 2020 plan obligation. I believe the new brochure establishes and now allows every member to understand what has always been true. That is, amongst other amenities, but specifically in regards to our lakes, dams, parking lots, and parks, they are POA private property. And then it further enlarges the jurisdiction of our rangers to lakes and parks. And then it aligns with existing policy, for example, with the prohibiting houseboats on our private lakes. And then the brochure also expands the prohibition of hazardous wakes and negligence manners that might endanger people, and then was expanded to also shores, dams, docks, and other structures. So in short, we know what the 2020 plan says clearly, so I am very pleased with the final product and would support its passage as it is.
So, Steve, this is David Welch. So the stuff that's on the left side of our page, excepting for what your comments were on the right, the left side, as management has worded it and made the red line changes there, that is adequate as far as you see it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, take, for example, like number 8. My opinion was, I'm not sure we should be getting into what the city of Bella Vista says about fireworks.
Right.
So I had crossed that out, and other people have agreed and left it stricken. we had the discussion about lakes as well as waterways. And that's been clarified that our lakes, the water is private property. And there's other distinguishing marks, but I think that's become very clear. So
Before we go on with further discussion, I've yet to see a second on this. Do we have a
This
second?
is David. This is David Welch, so I'll second it.
Okay. Now, further discussion.
Can I ask who made the motion and what the motion is?
I can't hear him.
Yeah, I don't think.
Who made the motion? You,
Don't need a
Ruth?
motion. Just need
I
a
made the
single-
motion to approve it as written.
Ruth made the motion.
To
Okay,
approve as written.
Correct.
okay, and that does not include the boxes on the right-hand side and the language in
It
it.
does include them.
No, it does
It
not.
does not
include-
include them as written
Okay.
originally.
So let's clarify.
Okay.
Everything on the left-hand side, whether it is in black or in red, the red would be the changes. Everything, that is what the motion is stipulating. The motion is not including anything in the box, which is on the right-hand side. So that's the motion that Ruth made, and it was a second.
Correct.
I support it.
Okay.
as well, Tom, to clarify, the red changes will also be removed. I mean, they'll be black.
Right.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, call for the vote.
Other discussion. It's called for a vote as approved, as written on the
Left-hand
left-hand
side.
side. All those in
Yes.
favor?
Yes.
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 Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, this
Anyone
is David
opposed?
Welch.
Okay, hold on. Did we have any nay?
No.
Okay, so we had,
Okay.
we had no abstentions, so all were ayes.
So we are finished. We are accepting it as the left-hand side. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, moving on. These are all second readings of policy changes. So I will read the motion, ask for a second, and we'll discuss anything and move on, much like we did last month for sake of getting it moved on.
And we're going to start on page 89 of your board packet.
It's number 13. Policy 1.02. I move that the approval of the Rules and Regulation Committee recommend the change of policy 1.02 as noted. This is the second reading as required. It's rescinding some of the government documents. A
Second.
second. Tia, you're second.
Yes.
Discussion. If no discussion, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
It passes. Policy 1.03.5 revision. This is the second reading. Recommend the changes in the policy. I move that the approval of the Rules and Regulation Committee recommendation changes in policy 1.03.5 is noted in the attached document. This is the second reading.
Second,
Second, David, discussion.
yes.
Hearing none, I'll ask for a call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Yes.
Anyone opposed to the motion?
Yes.
Oh,
Who is the yes?
was that a late yes or was that a nay?
Late yes.
It was a late, okay.
Play yes, okay.
Ruth, before you
Yes.
go on, did you skip over 1.02?
We did that
We
first.
just did that. We did that one
Okay.
first.
There's
Okay.
another one up there.
Now we're on policy 1.04. I move that the approved rules and regulation recommendation changes policy 1.04 is noted on the attached. This is the second reading of two required. It's removal of the community involvement committee
A
from
second.
the
Second.
advisories. May I have a second?
We got 2 seconds. Either one of them.
We have 2 seconds. That's good. I want discussion. Before we go into discussion, I want to make sure everybody understands that the coat drive and the fireflies and tailgates will continue and will taken over by the POA, and the beach and the playground equipment is a responsibility that got through from the earlier versions of the community involvement. So they have done several things that helped us, but it was time for a change. And the committee felt that was time for change. Any other discussion?
Agreed.
And we thank them for all the work they did.
Yes.
Okay, I'll call for a vote on policy 1.04. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay,
Motion carries.
motion carries. Policy 2.03, the second reading. I move that the motion that the Rules and Regulation Committee recommended changes policy 2.03 is noted in the attached. This is the second of 2 required readings. This is private cards, and they must be registered membership services, and you must have an activity card in order to purchase one or to register one. May I have a second?
A second.
David, okay. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, we'll move on and ask for a vote. All those in favor of policy 2.03 change?
Aye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Okay, policy 2.04, the second reading of 2 readings. And it's the attached documents. A motion is the Rules and Regulation Committee recommendation changes to policy 2.04 as noted in the attached document. This is the second of 2 required readings. It's updating the boating and mooring regulations. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of 2.04 changes?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm late. It says that the copy of that boating regulation that we just passed will be given to each of the each boat registration. Do we do that same service if people rent our boats or lease the areas? Do we hand those out as well at those places? And if we don't, that's just a suggestion. My apologies for interrupting.
Can you repeat the request, please?
The boating regulation goes out when we register a boat, and I'm just wondering if someone who rents one of our boats gets that same brochure. I don't know.
And make that happen. That's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Call for a vote on board regulation policy 2.04, boarding regulation mooring lease agreement. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, the next one is 2.05. I make a motion to approve the rules and regulation committee changes to 2.05 noted in the attached document. This is the second reading of 2 required readings. The Arkmo land was sold, therefore no one can hunt on the Arkmo land, which makes probably pretty good sense. May I have a second? I didn't mean to editorial. May I have a second?
David Brandenburg seconded it.
David already has. Discussion. Since I've already made my comment. Hearing no further comments. Discussion. I'll call for a vote on policy 2.05.
I have a
Hold on, Ruth. Steve, Director McKee.
Okay, see, I don't have.
Yes, thank you. I have a comment on the enforcement. It says Association Rangers. Based on what we just did with the brochure and the comment about confusion with the golf rangers, perhaps those words should be added there, that the rangers would be referring to the Parks and Lakes Rangers.
Steve, why don't you make a recommendation for an amendment, and let's phrase it as POA Lakes and Parks Rangers.
As opposed to association?
Because that's
so
how we refer to it in the boating regulations.
I didn't catch what you said.
In the boating regulations, we specifically reference it as POA Lakes and Parks Rangers. So I would recommend that we use the exact same terminology for this change.
Right. So I would make a motion that we amend policy 2.05, section 4, under enforcement, that the first word be struck and that POA Lakes and Parks be added, or to replace the word association.
Do I have a second?
Second. Tia.
Tia. Discussion. I guess I'm confused as to why we are enforcing it, because it isn't ours anymore. It would become a legal issue with law, wouldn't it? Wouldn't local law enforcement have to enforce it? It's not ours.
No, because while we're striking the ARCMO portion, this is still a regulation on common property.
Okay.
So it's still a valid adjustment. And the POA Lakes and Parks Rangers would be the ones that would enforce if someone was doing something improper on common property.
Okay, so hunting where they shouldn't be. Other discussion? If not, we'll call for a vote on the amended motion.
No, we'll vote on the
amendment. On the amendment.
Amendment to strike and change to, what we change it to? Instead of Association Rangers, we did.
It would just be POA Lakes and
read POA Lakes and Parks Rangers.
Okay, that's consistent with the other ones.
Correct.
Okay.
Just a question, is that substantive enough to?
Hold on, repeat that, Jerry, please. Jerry Hope, did you say something?
Yes. Question is that a substantive enough change to take it back to the first reading, or can it sit for the second reading?
I can't hear you.
Doug, that's a question for you.
I think it needs to be a first reading. So if it's changed enough that this should go back to first.
Needs to change.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will send this back to rules and regs. Is that what you say?
No, we said that it would go back to the first reading. So Doug, how are we going to handle the amendment, which is still not been voted on?
Yeah, we vote on the amendment first. If it passes, then we vote again on.
Then it goes back to first reading?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're voting on the amendment to change it to POA Lakes and Parks Rangers.
Call for a vote.
Call for a vote. All those willing or approved? Negative?
Can we do that again? Ruth called for a vote on the amendment.
We're on the amendment.
If you could say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, so the amendment
passed. So the amendment will go back as a first reading.
Okay, so now you have to do a motion for the amended motion.
You're voting on the amended motion, correct?
That's
And the
correct.
first reading of that.
Which is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't hear Jerry.
He made a motion.
Okay, Jerry made the motion. Second? Okay. Discussion? Okay, now we're asking for the approval of the regulation as amended.
First reading.
First reading. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
Hearing none, motion carries. And that becomes the first reading, and it will be carried over to next month.
Correct.
I apologize for that. The problem is I can't see everybody on the screen and I can't hear everybody, unfortunately. The next one is policy 3.08. The motion is approve Rules and Regulation Committee recommendation changes to policy 3.08 as noted the attached. This is the second of 2 required readings. It's parking for the purposes of fishing on the lakes for the association sanctioned fishing events. Normally, parking overnight would not be acceptable, but in these situations, we're asking for approval for parking overnight. May I have a second?
Second, David Welchel.
Okay, David Watchell, second. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for, did I hear any? I'll ask for a motion or a call to vote on those approving policy 3.08.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving to bylaws, Article 8, second reading. The motion to approve Rules and Regulation Committee changes by the bylaws, Article 8, is noted the attached. The second of 2 readings. This is removal of community involvement from the advisory committee status. May I have a second?
Second, Jerry.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote on the bylaws, Article 8, removal of the committee.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Okay, the next one is a first reading. This policy 1.03.2, and it moves that the Rules and Regulation Committee change the policy 1.03.2 as noted. This is the first of 2 readings. In essence, it's the ballots will be delivered, of election will be delivered no later than 30 minutes prior to the meeting start, and the election committee member will be there to accept any ballots. That pretty well sum up the motion. May I have a second? David,
I second it.
discussion.
Hey, it's Tia. So just to clarify, this addition is only making it easier for our members to understand when the cutoff is, by what time, and how we're going to enforce that.
Correct.
Correct.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote on policy 1.032. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. That's the end of my policies, and we should have one. Yeah, that's it. Anything else for the good of the cause? I appreciate you bearing with me. This is a new experience that we go through, that when you can't see everybody and hear everybody as we go, we'll try harder next time, and hopefully we'll go back to normal real soon, whatever normal might be. The announcements are as follows. The annual meeting, Tuesday, May 19th at 6 o'clock, will be Zoom meeting available, also be available by Facebook Live, plus recording of the meeting will be available on the POA website.
Hey, Ruth.
And the Board of Directors work session for May 21st has
Can't
been
hear us.
canceled. The Board of Directors general meeting, GM meeting, will be on May 21st at 4:30. This meeting will be conducted by Zoom, and it's a closed meeting. The Board of Directors regular session on May 28th at 6 o'clock will be a Zoom meeting, also available on Facebook Live. This recording will be made available on the POA website. Mary Stevens has a comment.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, send a big thank you to the senior staff and their staff, especially in F&B, golf, recreation, membership services, for the work they've done to keep the POA up and running during these trying times. I think that they've all shown an amazing level of creativity in what they've been doing. So, thanks, guys.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that.
Absolutely agree with you, Mary.
I
Yep.
second that.
That's right.
Other comments? Anything else for the good of the cause? If not, we stand adjourned.